Thanks for joining this episode of our webinar series on best practices in eDiscovery, artificial intelligence, and digital forensics. I'm excited for today's session, not only because it'll deliver some sage advice, but our guest speaker is also very entertaining. I know you're going to enjoy it. My name is Jeff Fugit. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Lexbe, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. Whether you're working in a law firm or in an enterprise, bringing eDiscovery in-house can equip you with the ability to become litigation ready, rapidly respond to data breaches, gain insights into your cases faster, grow your billable hours, augment your team's capabilities, and drive cost savings by disintermediating the middlemen. You'll hear more about these benefits and more from our guest speaker today. We've got a lot to cover, so I'll get started. Our webinars take place monthly and cover a variety of relevant eDiscovery, artificial intelligence, and digital forensic topics, trends, best practices, and strategies. We've got limited seating, so be sure to register early for the sessions that are of interest to you. If you have technical issues or questions, please email us at webinars@lexbe.com and we'll address those right away. Our webinars are available online at lexbe.com for viewing via streaming video, or downloadable as a PDF presentation or MP3 podcast. You'll find this webinar and a complete listing of other webinars at lexbe.com and on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions during today's session, please enter them in the Q&A portion of the GoToWebinar console, and we'll answer them after the event. To be notified of future live and on-demand events, please email us at webinars@lexbe.com or follow us on LinkedIn. For more than 18 years, Lexbe's been helping legal teams with limited resources handle document-intensive matters. We have the industry's most affordable and full-featured DIY cloud-based eDiscovery platform. This includes over 7 AI algorithms that assist our clients with their cases. We have the industry's fastest eDiscovery processing and document review platform. And this is important because being fast means you have more time to build a stronger case and you gain insights into your case sooner. We deliver the industry's fastest return on investment per a study that was done by G2. We're also rated as the eDiscovery company that's the easiest to do business with, a high performer, and the easiest to administer. We have a full forensic lab staffed with Cellebrite certified and Axiom Magnet certified forensic investigators who perform full and targeted forensic collections. And we've also launched 2 products recently. We've launched Lexbe Copilot, which is an advanced ChatGPT integration for intelligent eDiscovery automation. We also have integrations with other large language models as well. In addition, we've launched Lexbe Autopilot, which is automated Gen AI-powered document review. And if you'd like a demonstration of our platform, simply email us at sales@lexbe.com and we'll get that scheduled for you. Joining us today is Doug Austin. I'm going to let Doug introduce himself in eDiscovery today. But before I turn it over to Doug, I'd like to ask for your participation in a couple of polling questions. And our first polling question today is, are you investigating how to utilize Gen AI for eDiscovery in your organization? And while you're answering that, I'd like to thank you for participating in our polling questions today. All right, and I'll go ahead and close that poll. And our second polling question, are you looking to handle more cases and become litigation ready with your internal resources? All right, we've got a few more answers coming in. And I'll go ahead and close that poll. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Doug Austin. Doug?
Thanks, Jeff, and welcome everybody to the Lexbe Webinar, Bringing eDiscovery in-house, Considerations, Advantages, Best Practices, and Getting Started. I'm excited to be presenting here today, and I hope you find these tips informative as your organization either considers bringing eDiscovery in-house or looks to maximize the potential of your eDiscovery solution. Before we begin, I always remind people that any ideas expressed by me here today are my own, not those of my organization, clients, or partners. Also, please don't consider anything I'm saying legal advice. It's eDiscovery best practices advice. So please keep that in mind. So here's what we'll be covering today. First of all, we're going to define what in-house eDiscovery is and also what it isn't, or at least what it doesn't necessarily entail, just to make sure that we've got an understanding of what we're talking about when we mean in-house eDiscovery. Then we're going to talk about the criteria for bringing eDiscovery in-house, which is comprised of several considerations that impact just exactly how much utilization you can expect from an eDiscovery solution. We'll also talk about some advantages of bringing eDiscovery in-house and how you can consider leveraging those advantages in the solution that you implement. Then we'll talk about how in-house eDiscovery needs to align with other important functions within your legal department and your organization overall, such as the importance of legal operations and how information governance is the foundation of an eDiscovery program and where eDiscovery starts regardless of your use case. Speaking of use cases, we'll discuss some of the other use cases where eDiscovery technology and workflows can be applied and what others in the industry are doing in terms of applying eDiscovery to those use cases. Then we'll spend quite a bit of time talking about selecting the right eDiscovery technology for your organization. We'll talk about some of the factors to consider in terms of the solution that you choose, as well as potential features and capabilities to consider that are targeted for in-house legal departments. Then finally, we'll wrap up with a list of recommendations in terms of best practices for in-house eDiscovery and some steps for getting started that will enable you to maximize the potential of success of your in-house eDiscovery program. So let's start by defining in-house eDiscovery. You can see the definition there. In short, in-house eDiscovery is a process where an organization manages its eDiscovery activities internally using its own resources and staff, rather than outsourcing management of those processes to outside counsel. You see that the term manages and management are emphasized in that statement, which illustrates that management is the key to in-house eDiscovery. In-house eDiscovery doesn't necessarily require that the eDiscovery solution or the data, or even those performing key tasks like document review, be physically located in-house. So here are some of the criteria for bringing eDiscovery in-house. To start with, and really this is applicable not just when it comes to eDiscovery, but just about any technology solution these days, is data. Understanding your data and understanding the types of data you've got to address in your organization today, where it's located, the ever-growing volumes in our big data era that all organizations are dealing with, and the sensitivity of that data, because within that mass amount of data is sensitive and personal data, including personally identifiable information and potentially confidential or trade secret information. The next consideration is the organization's litigation docket, in terms of how much litigation your organization has in terms of the volume and types of litigation cases. Some types of cases lend themselves more to an approach where eDiscovery is brought in-house, where it's important to be able to manage that litigation centrally. For example, I've worked with clients who had product liability cases all over the country, and they worked with different local counsel in each of those cases. Their eDiscovery solution was in-house, and each time a new case was filed in a jurisdiction, that organization was able to go and work with that local outside counsel to manage that case through the in-house eDiscovery solution. Another thing to consider is what potential other use cases you might have for eDiscovery. If you conceivably have a lot of internal or external investigations or arbitrations or data privacy requests such as DSARs, that can be a great reason to bring eDiscovery in-house. Another consideration is the legal department personnel. Do you have people in place to manage that discovery in-house? That requires specific skills that you need to have in place, and you want to make sure that you have the right personnel for an in-house solution. Then finally, the maturity of your processes and procedures is critical. Technology can only be as effective as the processes and procedures it supports. So I mentioned data as one of the criteria for bringing eDiscovery in-house. Here's the Internet Minute infographic that was created by eDiscovery Today and LTMG last year, which illustrates that there are a lot of different data types out there in the world and a lot of activity happening in the internet every minute in terms of emails sent, text messages sent, activity on platforms like Slack and Teams and Zoom, photos created with smartphones, even visits to ChatGPT. That's becoming a new data source that organizations have to account for. Many of these data sources today might be sources that your organization's having to manage. As a result, it may be better for your organization to be able to manage that data and manage the integration of that data into an in-house eDiscovery platform than it would be to hand it all over to maybe an outside provider or outside counsel to do so. So that's a good lead in to discuss some of the advantages and potential benefits for bringing eDiscovery in-house. One of the biggest advantages that you hear is the potential for cost savings and the ability to have control and be able to manage the costs effectively with outside parties, including outside counsel. Just because you bring a solution in-house doesn't guarantee cost savings, but it certainly gives you an ability to have more control over expenditures associated with eDiscovery. Improved data security is another benefit in that your organizational data is in less places. It's within your organization's control, and it's not being replicated by potentially multiple outside counsel firms and potentially accessible out there in redundant places. So that certainly improves data security. Integration with internal systems is another benefit, where you have your own internal systems with your enterprise data, and you have the ability to integrate with that data, which is less straightforward than when the eDiscovery solution is hosted externally. As for customization and flexibility, you're the client. You're the one in control. You're the one that has the ability to customize the solution the way you want and work with the provider to request the customizations that are specific to the workflows in your organization. The ability to collaborate and communicate is enhanced as your in-house legal department is driving the communications. Having a solution in-house enables you to also increase the expertise and develop the knowledge within your own legal department in managing the workflows associated with eDiscovery and build up your capabilities in doing so. It certainly adds to long-term organizational learning as well, because you have that data at your disposal and the ability to learn from the exercises you go through and the data that you generate that you can apply to future cases. Finally, predictability and budgeting. It's your system, so you've got a lot more control in terms of the ability to establish an understanding of what you can expect each of these cases is going to cost. It's important for an in-house eDiscovery solution to be aligned with your in-house legal department processes and procedures and practices. One of the key aspects to that is alignment with legal operations. According to a recent Association of Corporate Counsel Chief Legal Officers survey, the percentage of surveyed CLOs that reported their legal department employed at least one legal operations professional grew from about 21% to over 60% in just a 6-year period. CLOs also listed legal operations as the top strategic initiative at 70% in their legal department. This infographic is from the Corporate Legal Operations Consortium, or CLOC, developed a few years ago, that identifies 12 functional areas that need to be addressed for legal operations maturity. As you'll notice, eDiscovery is not one of those functional areas because it's more of a process that benefits from the end result of a number of these functional areas. For example, eDiscovery certainly has information governance as the foundation of the eDiscovery lifecycle. Firm and vendor management and service delivery models are important to effective eDiscovery, as is strategic planning, both at the case level, across the overall litigation docket, and across multiple eDiscovery use cases. Training and development are important to make sure you get the most out of any solution, including eDiscovery. Business intelligence is important as well in terms of being able to get more and more use out of the data that's being generated that you can apply to future cases. And then, of course, technology is certainly a key component to eDiscovery because you can't really have an effective in-house eDiscovery program without fully leveraging technology to the extent possible. Mature legal operations is key to the success of an in-house eDiscovery solution. Another area, of course, is information governance. As I mentioned before, information governance is the foundation of electronic discovery. And understanding your information governance processes and understanding where your data is located and how it's created, used, retained, protected, and disposed of is key to being able to maximize the use of that information within your organization. Involvement of your various business units, including, of course, the in-house legal department, which is that pie slice there at the bottom, working with IT, with records management, and all these other business units is necessary to have an effective overall information governance approach. You need a robust information governance program to have an effective in-house eDiscovery program as well. We certainly have no shortage of colorful infographics in today's presentation. Certainly most of you probably already know the EDRM model, and you see the Information Governance Reference Model, IGRM, there at the beginning. In-house eDiscovery also involves management and alignment of your eDiscovery processes and workflows from identification through production and presentation. Those eDiscovery workflows must be aligned with your InfoGov program and with legal operations to maximize the success of your in-house eDiscovery solution. So I mentioned earlier that there are a lot of use cases to which eDiscovery technology and workflows can be applied today. Here are some of the most popular ones from the 2024 State of the Industry report conducted by eDiscovery Today and issued back in January. And by the way, that report is available free for email subscribers of eDiscovery Today. Not surprisingly, litigation is the top use case. But for as many as 6 other use cases, 7 in total, at least 40% of 444 respondents to the survey are applying eDiscovery technology and workflows to those use cases. 82% of respondents apply eDiscovery to investigations, and over half apply it to incident response. It illustrates that when you're bringing eDiscovery in-house, it's not just for litigation anymore. It can really apply to a number of different use cases. Applying it to those use cases helps maximize the investment you're making in your eDiscovery solution. So now let's talk about selecting the right eDiscovery technology for you. First, we'll talk about the factors to consider, and then we'll discuss features and capabilities you can consider. Of course, when it comes to selecting the right eDiscovery technology to bring in-house, the functionality and features of the solution are important, and it's important to identify the features that are most important to your organization. You also need a solution that's easy to use so that you can implement it and get up to speed with it quickly. Scalability is important because chances are the volume of litigation will rise over time, or you may want to start utilizing or applying eDiscovery technology and workflows to other use cases. Compatibility and integration is key to seamlessly get data into the solution and be able to support your organization in that regard. Data security and compliance is another factor, and you want to make sure you're aware of what the platform offers from the standpoint of securing the data and that your data is protected. The fact that you're bringing your eDiscovery solution in-house, as I mentioned a couple of slides ago, enables you to enhance data security by not having copies of that data out there with potentially numerous outside parties. Regarding customization and flexibility, you want a solution that provides some customization capabilities out of the box to customize it to work the way you work as individuals within your in-house legal department. You also want to work with a provider who can work with you to incorporate your custom needs into their product roadmap. It goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, that you want a system that performs even with large data volumes and can help streamline eDiscovery processes and workflows. You want to make sure that it has robust review and production capabilities because those are two of the most important areas in the eDiscovery lifecycle. Review has historically been by far the most expensive phase in the eDiscovery lifecycle, accounting for as much as 70% of the total cost of eDiscovery historically. Future-proofing means that the solution you're selecting is staying up to date with technology trends. One of the trends we're seeing everybody talking about these days is a focus on AI and especially generative AI. You want to make sure that you're selecting a solution that's addressing those trends and continuing to evolve to take advantage of technological capabilities that can enable your organization to continue to further streamline your eDiscovery processes. You want a solution that's compatible from a cost and pricing structure, one that's not just affordable, but also flexible in terms of cost and pricing structure to support your organization's changing needs. Selecting a provider with a strong reputation and a provider who provides excellent support is also important. It's important to know how long the provider's been around and what their support policies and what their support capabilities are. Finally, you want to get to know the product thoroughly, which not only entails a thorough demonstration of the product, but may also entail a free trial where you can work with the platform and get a chance to start seeing some of the benefits that you could get from that solution. Now we're going to talk about some of the features and capabilities to consider in an eDiscovery solution that you might consider bringing in-house. Here's a listing of features, and I'm going to walk through most of these features and what they may mean to you. It's important to note that this is not an exhaustive list of features, and the features and capabilities that are important to your organization may include other specific capabilities that are important to you. It's also important to note that this is a Lexbe webinar, and I'll be using screenshots from the Lexbe platform to illustrate the features and capabilities you see here. There are illustrations to help show how these potential features and capabilities might benefit your organization in terms of an in-house eDiscovery solution. So let's start with the importance of being cloud-based. We're seeing more solutions than ever that are cloud-based today. In fact, more than 94% of organizations with more than 1,000 employees have moved many of their workflows to the cloud. One of the key benefits of the cloud is the ability to not only manage the data, but also to work with outside parties in your eDiscovery projects to coordinate that process. You simply can't achieve that level of collaboration with an on-premise solution. Strong multi-case management capabilities are also important. In an in-house legal department, you're typically working on multiple cases at any given point in time. You may have multiple litigation cases in progress. You could conceivably have multiple investigations as well, and potentially an incident response project if you've experienced a data breach. You need to be able to manage multiple cases within your solution effectively and be able to customize how you use each of these cases in terms of user access. When you're sharing access with outside counsel firms and outside providers, it's important to have the flexibility to turn on the appropriate level of control to each of them for the cases that are pertinent to them. The ability to get your data up into the platform quickly is also important, and that includes both the ability to manage uploads through the platform itself, as you can see with an example here in terms of its ability to enable you to walk you through a process to select files to be uploaded, as well as the flexibility to work directly with the provider to get large volumes of data uploaded quickly. An eDiscovery solution must be informative from a search standpoint in terms of providing dashboards and providing the ability to analyze your search results. Here are a couple of screenshots, including a dashboard example that illustrate classifications regarding specific searches you've done, as well as more of a textual search report where you can see hit counts, expanded hit counts, including family members, and unique hit counts. Unique hit counts are important as searches with a high number of unique hit counts compared to the rest of the searches you're conducting may be potentially overbroad searches that need refinement. The ability for the platform to enable quick analysis of your keyword searches is a must-have today. So many new data privacy laws enacted today, It's important to be able to identify and mitigate personally identifiable information such as social security number, date of birth, email address, or even credit card numbers or bank account numbers. That's made auto redaction capabilities very important, where the platform can identify areas where it can apply those automated redactions to your data for you to review and confirm. This capability can not only save a lot of time, but it can also make redactions more reliable, as the human eye tends to miss things that the computer won't miss when there are clearly defined rules. Another important capability is the ability to customize your display. That can include everything from customizing the fields in a given project, to creating fields on the fly, to setting specific filters for yourself, or if you're administering for other users, appropriate filters so they're only seeing the data that's pertinent to them. For example, you could have an outside expert reviewing certain items, so you could set a customized filter for them. Customizing can even include the aesthetics. For example, the screens you're seeing in this presentation are in Lexbe's dark mode, which is an alternative to screens with a white background. Even when you're using a cloud-based solution, sometimes there's a need to work offline. You might have an outside counsel attorney who's going to be traveling and may not have access to the internet, or just may find it more comfortable to work with files in an offline mode. So you want to have the ability to easily export a selected group of files to something like a briefcase where they can do that. From a viewing standpoint, you want to have the ability to support multiple forms of the document for viewing. That includes the ability to view an image of the document if one exists, view the file in a natively rendered form, to be able to view the raw text from an OCR standpoint, and so forth. That flexible view should support your need to code the documents as you view them, or apply generative AI analysis to summarize the document quickly, which can save considerable time in making determinations, especially on large documents. Another key is an intuitive interface that helps streamline reviewing and coding. When it comes to workflows that include responsiveness review, privilege, and confidentiality reviews, you may have certain specified standard type fields for identifying those documents in terms of whether they're responsive, non-responsive, whether they apply to certain privileges, and more. The ability to assign hotkeys to streamline decision-making may seem like a small thing, but the time savings can add up, which eventually leads to cost savings. One of the most important things from an in-house eDiscovery standpoint is understanding what's going on in terms of activity within your cases. If there are issues, you want to have the ability to understand how those issues occurred and maybe which users were responsible. So an audit trail with the history to be able to see what's happened with one or more documents, when certain decisions were made about a document and who made them, is a must, especially given that most of the users of the solution may be outside parties. One of the most important things in managing a case is understanding the timeline and understanding important milestones in the case. Having the ability to create timelines and track key facts associated with the case, as well as being able to create and maintain case notes, is something that legal professionals everywhere want to assess how their case is shaping up and react accordingly. Every case has a series of events over a timeline, and the ability to analyze those within the same platform where you manage discovery is a terrific capability to have. Of course, email threading is key in terms of being able to identify unique emails within a thread, so that you don't have to review the entire thread, just the unique emails to make determinations. You want a platform that identifies those for you and gives you the ability to quickly understand which emails you should be focusing on, and enables you to streamline review to focus just on those specific unique emails. Just as important is the analysis of near duplicates within your document collection. That's more than just identifying that a document may contain a certain percent of similar content. You also want to understand where the differences apply. These days, we're always creating new versions of documents with changes which may be subtle or considerable, so you want to understand where the differences are. The ability to compare documents to identify those changes quickly saves considerable time. And that analysis also enables you to group similar documents, where you can determine documents that are similar enough that they're essentially part of the same group, which can streamline the handling of them versus handling them individually and potentially not consistently. We don't talk about production management near enough, but it's the last important step in the process of producing ESI and discovery. You can do everything right up to this point, but mistakes here could lead to disputes regarding lack of cooperation, inadvertent disclosures, and more. So the production module needs to include how the productions are created, what the formats are, the ability to create and save reusable templates, and the ability to coordinate and manage multiple productions or even rolling productions. You want to thoroughly vet the production management module, as that's where the end result of all your hard work can go wrong if production isn't handled properly. Another aspect of an eDiscovery solution and importance from an in-house eDiscovery standpoint is the administration and management in terms of managing the users associated with each of your cases, what their rights and capabilities are, and having the ability to determine what data is associated with those cases, creating custom case fields, managing billing aspects, and so forth. When you're in a legal department and you're working with multiple outside parties, including different outside firms and providers, you want to make sure you can fully administrate the rights of those users, within which cases they're authorized to work, and what they can do in each of those cases. A good solution involves to continue to leverage technology in new ways, and one of the things I mentioned earlier was emerging technologies and how your provider is embracing the technology trends. There's certainly no bigger trend today than what we're seeing in terms of the impact of generative AI on all sorts of processes within organizations, and of course, that includes eDiscovery processes and workflows. You want a solution that's embracing emerging technology capabilities such as generative AI. As you can see with the screenshot here, for example, the ability to just ask questions about your document collection is important. And one of the things that's great about generative AI is it's very intuitive and straightforward in terms of your ability to ask about your document collection and get useful information back. It's even better when you can select different AI engines for applying your analysis because each engine has its strengths and weaknesses. Having the flexibility to work with different AI engines enables you to maximize the benefits of generative AI technology. Of course, the ability to leverage generative AI technology extends to things such as identifying personally identifiable information or other sensitive information. Here's an example of that where generative AI is identifying what it sees in terms of names, addresses, account numbers, and more. It's identifying potential PII on the document that can enable you to make decisions on how to protect that document accordingly. As I mentioned a few slides ago, the ability to leverage Gen AI to summarize documents is also becoming a must-have. If you're reviewing a very large document, it can be very time-consuming to read it all just to determine that it's really not a document that has any important information. So the ability to get a quick summary could streamline that process of determining which documents are important and which are not important, enabling you to not necessarily have to review the entire document. Another key capability, as illustrated by this GIF, is identifying key acronyms. One of the things I've seen in cases that I've worked on when searching document collections is that we may not know all the key acronyms being used by organizations for a while and tend to have to update our search criteria once we discover them, which is time-consuming and disruptive. And acronym search is another use of generative AI, where you can quickly identify those key acronyms so you can determine up front which acronyms may be important to the case. From a responsiveness review standpoint, one of the things that's important is the ability to not only use generative AI to help with determining which documents are potentially responsive based on criteria you provided, but also to get information about the decisions that are being made in terms of the confidence level of those decisions or why the model classified the document as responsive or non-responsive. One of the things we've never gotten with technology-assisted review is the reasoning behind its decisions. It's always been a black box. So the ability to use emerging technologies and generative AI capabilities to not only identify documents that the model thinks are responsive, but to get the reasoning for that determination and its confidence level gives you an ability to understand its decisions and confirm or respond accordingly. It also makes for a more defensible process. I mentioned dashboards at the outset, and here's another great example showing the ability to find out information about your review in terms of the responsiveness determinations versus what the model predicted. That also enables you to get a sense of what your AI precision and recall is and the confidence levels of your predictions. Anybody who's managed reviews understands that the ability to provide analytics on the review process itself enables you to not only confirm the quality of the review process, but also provides the information you need to defend the process if you're challenged by the opposing party on it. Those are just some of the features, examples of features to look for, including some of the newer features and capabilities we're seeing with generative AI. And let's face it, folks, we're just getting started, so expect these capabilities to evolve rapidly. Finally, let's talk a little bit about best practices and some steps for getting started. If you're considering bringing eDiscovery in-house, you need to begin by assessing your needs and your resources. What are your needs in terms of why you want to consider bringing the solution in-house? And what are your resources and capabilities for supporting that? You may need to take certain steps to get your house in order within the legal department or the organization as a whole before you're ready to bring that solution in-house. You also need standard operating procedures and processes before you can leverage technology to streamline those procedures and processes. Keep in mind that standard operating procedures will evolve over time, so it's not like you'll develop them once and leave them alone, but you need to have a starting point. Your solution will be only as effective as the procedures and processes it supports. Certainly, eDiscovery begins with being able to ensure compliance and legal hold. I cover 60 to 70 eDiscovery case law rulings a year, and a large percentage of those are sanctions due to spoliation of electronically stored information. A lot of those cases come down to failure to implement a proper legal hold. Failing to preserve data is a mistake you often can't recover from in litigation cases. Establishing good collaboration across departments is another important step to take to get started. This is not just an in-house legal decision. You also need to make sure you can coordinate with the other departments to get the information you need, and that you have an information governance program that enables you to work with those departments, with IT, with records management, with business units, and more, to ensure you'll get maximum value out of the solution. It's important to focus on data security and privacy, to understand where your data is, understand how to get to it, and understand how that data is being managed. An in-house eDiscovery solution enables you to improve data security and privacy simply in minimizing the number of instances where that data sits. Of course, you've got to invest in the right technology, which means the right technology that supports the customer requirements for you and your team. I've identified in the past few slides some of the capabilities and features to look for, but it's important to make sure that you go through the due diligence to determine your own requirements and select the technology that's going to work best with your team. And it's best to do that before that huge case comes along. Once that happens, you're rushing to select a solution, which often results in a poor fit for your organization. Consider external partnerships when necessary in terms of how you'll work with providers. As I mentioned earlier, just because it's an in-house solution doesn't mean that you'll need to conduct all the functions and processes yourself. You may team with outside providers, such as managed review providers, so you need to keep those partnerships in mind, where the in-house eDiscovery solution can serve as the hub, working with those outside firms and providers. You also need to make sure that your team is trained, not just on how to use the solution, but on eDiscovery best practices in general. One of the best ways to minimize risk with your eDiscovery projects is a well-trained team that understands the requirements of how they work with electronically stored information within your organization and how to manage that ESI within an eDiscovery workflow. You want to measure and analyze the performance of your processes and of your solution and continue to look for ways to improve. Metrics are more important than ever these days, and those metrics will provide key information that leads to regularly reviewing and updating your processes, not just to address performance improvements, but also to address and leverage new technological developments like we saw with some of the generative AI capabilities. Keep those recommendations in mind, and you'll be able to, hopefully, have a successful implementation and bringing your eDiscovery solution in-house. So with that, I'll say thanks to all of you for attending, and I'll turn it back over to Jeff to close us out.
Thanks, Doug. Your best practices, examples, and delivery are always valuable and entertaining. We'll have to have you come back and do another session soon. As I mentioned in the introduction, we have an advanced forensic lab equipped with the latest tools to help collect the documents you need for your cases. We perform remote and on-site collections and have performed collections from all kinds of sources, as you can see on this partial list. If you need to find deleted text messages or collect data from sources like Slack or Microsoft Teams, then we're here to help. And this leads me to our next polling question. Do you have a digital forensic project, and would you like a complimentary consultation? All right, and I'll go ahead and close that poll. We work with a lot of litigators to help them solve their eDiscovery problems. Jordan Howell is a sophisticated litigator running a multi-office firm. Most of his cases involve larger, well-funded opposition. With Lexbe, he likes having the ChatGPT integration available at his fingertips so he can quickly gain insights into the relevant case documents. Mario Petrocco needed a platform to get litigation ready and deal with a contract dispute. He utilized the Lexbe eDiscovery platform to identify the relevant documents and equip his outside counsel with exactly what they needed to win the case. Paige Tackett at Thompson Co. needed Lexbe speed to get some productions out the door to meet deadlines. Lexbe is lightning fast and gets you from document ingestion to productions faster. David Jones was concerned that he would be outgunned by his AmLaw opposition. He quickly realized that Lexbe was a strong equalizer that helped him build his best case that delivered a winning verdict. As I mentioned, we launched a GenAI eDiscovery product called Lexbe Copilot. It's a secure integration with GenAI models like ChatGPT. There are a multitude of use cases, including document review assistance, summarizing documents like we did with the medical records example on the right. I can seamlessly automate the process of rapidly analyzing documents and helping you set the stage for a successful case. In the medical records example, we asked it to summarize the treatment and format it by date, medical provider, purpose of the visit, diagnosed conditions, treatment summary, and more. It really is amazing what it can accomplish in a fraction of the time a traditional document review. We've also incorporated industry-leading prompt management, prompt collaboration, and pre-engineered prompts so you're productive right out of the gate. In addition, we launched Lexbe Autopilot, which is a full GenAI-powered automated document review solution. As Doug mentioned, it takes tar cal to a whole new level. Our extensive testing has shown that it delivers better performance, greater defensibility, and saves you time and money. It comes with a confidence score, prompt engineering, the rationale for prediction, precision and recall analysis, and quality assurance production support. It has great applications for document-intensive cases, for short deadlines and rapid response situations, as well as third-party subpoenas. With Lexbe's eDiscovery platform hosted in Amazon Web Services, you get on-demand capabilities that scale to address the needs of your case. With Lexbe's cloud infrastructure, you can get from document ingestion to review faster and get your productions out the door faster. All of your remote or mobile connected employees can access the Lexbe eDiscovery platform via web browser. It works great on Macs, PCs, iPhones, and Android devices, and this gives you unprecedented flexibility and efficiency. And I wanted to point out that Lexbe is a single end-to-end eDiscovery platform with a complete ChatGPT GenAI integration, and unlike many eDiscovery providers, you don't have to move your data from one solution to another. At Lexbe, we continue to innovate the Lexbe eDiscovery platform, which not only means your Lexbe subscription continuously improves, but we're also creating new efficiencies and pass the cost savings on to customers. That's why we don't have to charge you for processing, file promotion, early case assessment, user fees, OCR, productions. We don't nickel and dime you with electronic endorsement charges, and we save you money on the hosting as well. And with that, I'll ask our last polling question. would you like a demo of the Lexbe eDiscovery platform? While you're answering that, I'd like to thank you for attending today's session. We'll be making the following available to webinar attendees: a recorded streaming version, an MP3 podcast, as well as a PDF. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments about this webinar or suggestions for future topics. This webinar is part of the Lexbe eDiscovery webinar series. For notices of future live and on-demand webinars as part of this series, please email us at webinars@lexbe.com or follow us on LinkedIn. Also, we'd like your advice regarding our webinar series. Please complete the survey at the end of today's session. Helps us to continuously improve this program and cover the digital forensics, artificial intelligence, and eDiscovery topics that are most relevant to you. And with that, I'd like to thank Doug for presenting today, and thank you for attending. And be sure to follow Lexbe on LinkedIn so you'll be alerted to the latest podcast and webinar episodes. And watch your inbox for an invite to our next webinar on best practices in eDiscovery and digital forensics. Take care.